I'm Eeyore. Hi, I'm Belle.
Hi, I'm Elsa. And hi, I'm Magical Unicorn.
Today we are all going to tell you a story about important events from American history. Hi guys, I'm going to tell you about a really important man in American history, George Washington. His life was eventful to say the least. He is best known for being the first president of the United States. But did you know that he was a really important man before that? He was the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Continental Army, which means he was in charge of the whole army. His role was one of the biggest in the American Revolution. Many people think his strength was in his strategies, but actually, it was in the way he could encourage the army to keep going. One of the key battles that he faced was the Battle of Trenton. This is when Washington crossed the Delaware River, Christmas Day, 1776. He surprised the Hessian army and led the Continental Army to a great victory without any casualties. One thing you guys may not know is that his biggest challenge was not something he faced in battle, but was that the army was struggling with supplies, which was very sad. They made it through somehow, though, and pulled themselves together and made it to the Battle of Yorktown. This is the major battle that helped the Continental Army win the Revolutionary War. Yay! Go America! Here's a fun fact to end my story about George Washington. In 1976, he was promoted to the General of the Armies of the United States, making him the highest-ranked person in the U.S. Army. That was an awesome story, Eeyore. Speaking of American history, I'm going to tell you a story about the Tea Act of 1773, which would cause major problems just a few months later. The Tea Act was introduced as a way to get the British out of its financial troubles. The act was passed on May 10, 1773, and the act allowed them to take control of the tea trade between the colonies, cutting out the middleman, making the tea cheaper. The people in this time, however, did not approve of this idea, and it caused an outrage from the colonist merchants, and they believed it was going to hurt them and cut into the money that they were making. So they decided to take matters into their own hands and handle it on their own. The colonists closed off the ports in Philadelphia and New York, not allowing any company ships to land, which meant they would have to find other harbors to bring the tea into, which was a difficult task back in this time. Well, in Charleston, they were just locking their tea away in a warehouse, and as a result, something tragic happened right around Christmas time of 1773.
The Tea Act was one of the many things that caused the Boston Tea Party. The Boston Tea Party was a protest started by the American colonists against the British government as a result of the Tea Act of 1773. The American colonists were fed up with the British government and their unfair treatment. Boston was under rule of the British Empire, a royal governor appointed by the king. The royal governor made a lot of rules for the colonists and only allowed them to trade goods with Britain. They even created the Stamp Act, which required a direct tax be paid on every piece of paper used for printing in the colonies. They were outraged. The Stamp Act led to violence and was eventually repealed. It was replaced with the Townshend Act of 1767, which required the colonists to pay import taxes on glass, lead, paper, paint, and tea. Tea was an important part of their everyday lives, and the colonists were even more outraged. One night in the harbor, 100 American colonists dressed up as Mohawk Indians and boarded 3 tea ships, the Beaver, the Dartmouth, and the Eleanor. Over the next 3 hours, 342 crates holding over 90,000 pounds of tea were removed from the ship's holds, broken up with axes, and dumped into the harbor, and the participants melted back into the night. Our friends did a very great job explaining some sensational things that have happened in history. Something I wanted to touch base on is how we all take colors for granted every day, but in reality, their study is a complex phenomenon that is influenced by several factors, and one of them being how the popularity of the different colors across the decades reflects the changing influences of politics, fashion, music, art, and media on the history of color. We are going to fast forward a little bit in time with my special powers and stop around the 1920s and 30s, also known as the Roaring Twenties. This time period showed a flourish in makeup for women as this era displayed growth. and economic renewal. Eye makeup was heavily in shades in turquoise and green, and aqua blue were rather popular. Lipsticks in the 1920s and 30s were characterized by deep reds, maroons, browns, and raspberry. Architecturally, white was the most popular color in this decade. White kitchens, white cabinets, white appliances all spoke of healthy, disease-free environment. Whoever had thought of this? So if we fast forward to the 40s and 50s during World War, when our flag became more known, the colors of red, white, and blue with stars and stripes were seen everywhere. This was a perfect form of symbolism used in history by colors. History is a light that illuminates the past and a key that unlocks the door to the future.